Hey everyone, it's Classic DM. We're back with another one of these Dungeon Master question video series. Hope you're having a cool weekend. It's Saturday night. I want to go through just 3 questions tonight, and some of them are really cool. I thought they were really interesting questions, interesting situations. You know, and as always, leave a comment below and share what you think to some of these kind of questions. These are coming from the subreddit called Ask Game Masters. I find it to be pretty interesting because as opposed to ones that focus on a particular game, you sometimes can get exposed to a game you already knew existed, or someone's asking to permutate 5e into a science fiction setting. There's all kinds of interesting elements to the questions, and some of them are really good. Like if you and I were hanging out, we're having fun, and you want to ask me a question, hey, how would you handle this? That's what it kind of sounds like. Let's jump into the first one. DM struggling with a rogue player who brings chaos and often tension to sessions. How to approach. We had this happen so much when we were kids. Picking pockets and stealing shit, especially if someone got a bunch of money or a bunch of magical items like a necklace of missiles or anything like that, ring of protection. Those are the hot topics that the other dudes in the party would steal from friends. And there was one day when we were running the Glacial Rift with a Frost Giant Jarl, and I was a player, and there was another friend of mine who was playing a thief, Panamon Creole, which you may remember from the first video, and he was hell-bent on robbing people in the party, and we had like 12 kids playing in this front bedroom. I mean, we were sitting around eating Cheetos and shit, being dumb. We're like 12 years old, right? And he stole so much crap and got away with it. And the Dungeon Master, who's a buddy of mine, who's now been working on AutoCAD software for the last 50 freaking years of his life. He's had one job his whole life. He was a Dungeon Master. And he's this really good, you know, straight Christian kid, and he basically just let it happen. And he would never really describe what's going on. He'd make a roll, and then he would just kind of look at the guy that's playing a thief, and this was a yes, and this looked no. Let's see this specific question and see what happens. I'm dungeon mastering an adventure that's just started. One of the players has a rogue character and leans heavily into the stealing, taking treasure roleplay. That's a key word in there, the real roleplay part. You know what I think about that. While that's fine in principle, it often causes tension and chaos with NPCs they're supposedly to ally with, or with whom all the other players want to ally with. So unlike the situation I described in the Glacial Rift of the Frost Giant Jarl, where we have a player in the party robbing the other players, this is a situation where the rogue character is robbing the NPCs, and which the DM may be getting a little annoyed with it because he's role-playing the NPCs reacting to this if it fails. They also refuse to help or get annoyed when they can't act independently, which disrupts the other players' plans. This happens a lot too. So actually you're starting to see there's 2 game mastering issues going on here with one player. He's stealing. He creates tension and chaos by stealing from NPCs that the players want to ally with, or the players want to ally with. Okay, so beyond that, they've repeatedly tweaked their character sheet in ways that aren't consistent with the player's handbook. So now we've got the third problem, right? Which would be fine. No, it's not. But I'm a new DM. It's difficult to make exceptions and having to double check. Their work even after we had a day just for the character creation is frustrating. Wow. Okay. I get the general sense they want to be able to do whatever they want. I realize this might be a consequence of being new to D&D themselves. That's a clue, really good clue, and not understanding the rules that can lead to this way of thinking. So we're starting to see, imagine this evolving, right? These key tidbits of our detective information. This isn't just an experienced player like me playing a rogue and stealing shit from NPCs. There's a lot more going on here with the social dynamic. I've reminded them, you've told them. Okay, so you've already talked to them outside the game of our pre-game rule that all characters need to work together and like each other, but I'm not sure how they'll respond next session. And I encourage players to read the handbook, and I think it's fine to make mistakes, but I'm struggling with how to balance enforcing the rules with keeping the game fun. Okay, so this person's behavior is, from the game master's perspective, this sounds like a 5e drama thing, is in their mind, this is making it not fun. Now, why is that? Is because the NPCs are reacting, and you want the NPCs to react in way one versus the player characters in the party. You want them to talk to King Shuggleberg or whatever his name is. You want King Shuggleberg to give them some men-at-arms, and the rogue comes there and starts trying to rob King Shuggleberg during the dramatic dialogue. I just don't know. I'm having to imagine. If you have any other tips and tricks to approach this, please let me know. What would your approach look like? Okay, so let's go break this down into some of the most basic information here, the clues that we got, right? One, there's role play going on, right? The role play means people are talking, and the character that's role playing is, you draw attention to themselves, and they're role playing, flamboyant thief, let's say, and they're trying to do something, stealing and taking treasure. Like, you ever seen these videos on YouTube where someone like a magician type guy can rip the watch off another person while they're talking to them by bumping them and holding their arm and distracting them, a card trick type stuff, right? So the player character thinks playing a rogue, that's what it's all about. It's like this Vegas act thing. And so when imagine the person standing up and talking and saying, okay, while I'm doing this, I'm gonna try to reach in the guy's pocket and steal his key, preferably the key of the treasure room. Who knows? The other players don't want that to happen because the other players want to collaborate and find out what's going on with King Shuckleberg or whatever his name is. And so the other players see the rogue character as probably acting out as if he's the one that's the entertainment for the day. I don't know. That rogue character, the player, refuses to help or get annoyed when they can't act independently, which disrupts other players' plans. So remember, when someone tells you something, that you're feeling this because you want to act independently, that may not be what's going on at all. You may be thinking, no, I want to play this wacky rogue and act like this nutty dude that's trying to scam everyone. I just like to play a scammer. And I kind of want the repercussions of me playing the silly scammer to create tension, dramatic conflict, friction, but not necessarily against the party, but I actually really want to get into the role of the scammer character. It's like Steve Buscemi in some of his movies. He's not going to come in there and get along with others and be, yeah, let's go do this, Captain. So the relationship between the player's idea of playing the rogue character and what he thinks the rogue player, Ocean's 11 style character should be playing, the other players are somehow annoyed. Is he annoyed because he's actually doing that, or is he actually really stealing? And what's the result with you as the game master controlling King, let's call him Shuggleberg just for a laugh. Does King Shuggleberg get mad and call in the guards and throw you all in prison? Like, why is it a problem? So the thing is, the GM's passing judgment, but he's not describing how does this turn into a problem, okay? Beyond that, they've repeatedly tweaked their character sheet in ways that aren't consistent with the player's handbook. That could be a lie. The game master could say that, so he's going to immediately be on the side of the people that respond to their subreddit thread. So that, wow, this guy's a cheater, man. He's drawing attention to himself. He's messing things up. The other players are getting annoyed. The other players might be chuckling and laughing at him because they got everyone thrown in prison. Now we had a big fight. We really wanted to work with King Shuckleberg or whatever his name is. And now suddenly we're having to be thrown in prison and got to escape and our gear is gone, right? So there's a lot of subtleties when people ask these kind of questions, try to manipulate. I kind of want answers that tell me what to do to penalize the dude, as opposed to saying, hey, this is a real problem. What should we do with it? All right. I'm a new DM, so it's new to dungeon mastering, which is not easy. It's difficult to make exceptions and having to double check the player's handbook stuff. I get the general sense they just want to do whatever they want. Okay, that's you summarizing and passing judgment on someone else. I realize there might be a consequence of being a new D&D themselves, and not understanding the rules can lead to this way of thinking. And you've made a pregame rule that says everyone needs to work together and like each other. I've seen this session 0 stuff ever since 2014, where it's a happy, joy adventure, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, let's get to our answers here, right? I'm reading a lot between the lines of what's going on here, and my goal of making a video is to not just to poke fun at someone else, but actually say what could possibly you could do to get this kind of back on track. The first thing I would do, I go talk to the guy playing my rogue character, and I would mention some things that he'd done before, but I would not make it an HR meeting, okay? Hi, Jim, we need to get together and talk because there's some problems with how you're running your rogue character. I wouldn't do that. Your tone in the conversation, hey man, let's talk to you about your rogue. Let's say his rogue is called Stanks, right? I want to talk about Stanks. So I know you've been doing like robbing people and stealing and taking treasure and stuff like that. I tell you what, why don't we do this? If you want to do independent actions like that, tell me some of the themes of the things that you think are interesting, and when we're playing the game, if I do some rolls behind the screen for you, I can like give you like a thumbs up or thumbs down, or give you some kind of hand motion so you know whether you're successful or not, and it can kind of be your internal mini game. But if you want to stand up there in front of the other characters and try to persuade this fanciful NPC that's part of the storyline and try to rob them blind, don't forget that if you fail The guards might be called, or something else bad might happen. As long as you're willing for there to be repercussions, I would never cheat. I would let the dice decide. Is that your goal? But find out what the player's goal is, right? Make it fun, entertaining for them without it being such a way that the other players are becoming annoyed. It sounds like the person playing the rogue really wants to get into playing a rogue, and the other player's like, would you stop playing rogue? We want to get to the adventure. And you don't want that to keep happening too. You can tell the other players who are real people that Stanks here, he's going to keep playing this flamboyant kleptomaniac nutter. He's always going to be trying to steal stuff. Remember, all you guys are supposed to be friends. Like, think Ocean's 11, right? Like Jason Bourne stealing people's wallets on the bus and stuff like that. You guys need to play into this and help create distractions so that Stanks can get away with it sometimes. But it's not going to get you any serious trouble. You guys can always get out of it. So make it sound like the inanimate objects, the third person, the characters, the characters in the movie, characters in the play, get to do things their own way, and there's repercussions for their actions. You're directing them. Don't allow it to continue to go off the rails without you understanding the player's goal or what they find entertaining or exciting or anything like that. I hope that music's not too loud. I'll turn it down just a touch. So the character sheet thing is like, hey man, here's how it works. The character sheet's kind of like the rules of the dice. What happened? You rolled the character. Here's what's happening. Don't really make any changes to it. Like, don't add any percentages when you make rolls, or don't do anything that's kind of cheating. The fun part of Dungeons and Dragons in all versions is learning to play with what the dice gods give you. Just make sure that's imparted upon him, that he doesn't write down that he actually stole a necklace of missiles from the king right there in the throne room. So that shouldn't be a big deal. Just explain to him, because you're telling me that he's new and he may be jumping into the rogue character thing a little too much, right? The summarization statement that the general sense that he wants to do whatever they want. Well, that conversation with him outside the game, which is respectful, and hey, I want to tell me what you want to do with your character. There'll be ways we can work this out, because I know you're playing this really crazy kleptomaniac, nutty rogue that wants to steal watches and necklaces, whatever the person's goal is, right? Along the way, they may tell you that, oh, my goal, I just seems things are boring. I don't want to sit here and role play all this blah 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 out loud stuff. I just want to get things moving. I want some action. I want there to be a fight. Like, that may be their motivation too. Okay, so the pre-game rule that all characters need to work together and like each other, there's nothing wrong with that verbatim. You can say, hey, listen, you're playing a party of adventurers, you're roll-up characters, but you're part of, like, the Grey Wardens from Dragon Age, and there's 7 of you or 5 of you, and you've been together since a war, and you're all in the same unit together, and now you're actually on a mission together, and you've all known each other for a long time. So as you play the game, the character you're playing in the film, the character you're playing in the play, the character in the book that you're adopting, that you've created, they're all going to be trustful of each other. They're not going to have major conflicts. They can always cover each other's backs. They've been to hell and high water together, okay? So when you're playing the game, don't try to attack each other. Doesn't be out of character for those characters. If you guys will promise to keep that pact going, like the Fellowship of the Ring, no one's trying to kill each other, this should be really interesting. Okay, so those are the types of things I would do. Discover what the rogue character's goal is. What does he want out of it? Let him know about the character sheet thing. Remind him that all the NPC characters are all, from a previous group together. They've been around for a long time, like Fellowship of the Ring, and then just let them turn loose and go back to playing the game however they want. Do not, under any circumstances, attempt to tell a player outside the game that they can't or should not do that. That'll ruin your adventure or your story, because it's not yours in the first place. All right, let's go to another one. What we got on this one? How to get over pre-game jitters. All right, Guinness, I love it. I've been meaning to up my GM game, so I started doing 2 games a week, and it's been going okay, I guess. Last weekend, my players canceled on me, but this weekend, I know for sure we'll be able to play. To say I'm nervous is an understatement. I feel like I'm going to botch it somehow. My players won't have fun. But I know that as long as I know my rules and the players know where there's that, we'll get to roll some dice, have fun. I'm just nervous, I guess. Anything particular you guys do to relax before hosting? I'm going to read into this one. I like to analyze what people say things. I'm not a police officer. I'm not a detective. 2 games a week. Wow, that's really awesome. You're lucky to have a group of friends that want to play that much. Let's assume for a moment that means the same group of players, whether they're in middle school, high school, college, or professionals. They're able to get together and do 2 games a week. Maybe it's a Wednesday night and a Saturday morning. Who knows, right? That's awesome. You don't want to kill that. You will eventually outgrow it and move on, and you won't be able to do it anymore. You're nervous because you don't want them to not have fun. And when someone can't, I don't think we've all decided that we're not going to be able to play Wednesday nights anymore. That's just a typical kind of a human thing where, like, if people don't like you anymore, they kind of want to be politely let you down. They don't like how you GM the game. There's nothing wrong with you getting them together. The next session, say, hey guys, I've been doing this. I want to kind of make my game mastering better, but make sure you guys are having fun. Like, do you think my approach is good? Is it bad? Is there anything I can do to improve? When you open yourself for criticism, other people are more likely to give you feedback that's not going to hurt your feelings, unless they're just an asshole. They're more likely to tell you, well, it seems like when we're playing a game that you seem upset when we don't do what you want us to do. Or it seems like when we're playing the game, we get to a big combat fight that you somehow magically change the fight in the middle of the fight and suddenly we're losing and then we win, and we always seem to win. It feels like you're making it, it's too easy for us. Like, get feedback from the players, because game mastering is, in fact, you are controlling, and you can change the numbers behind the scenes to make certain things happen that aren't supposed to happen. So don't talk to your players. If you're going to get together this weekend, talk to them again. The jitters thing, a lot of the answers are like, yeah, I get the jitters too. I've been doing it for 40 years. Well, yeah, sure. That's a reflection of any human being that gives a damn about what's going on. Like, well, I don't want it to suck. If you're starting to feel like, I don't think they're having a good time and they canceled once, shit. Gosh, what can I do? Well, maybe that's not what it is. Maybe just people are busy, and with one person's gone, the other people want the other people to be there. It could be a party of 4. One person's out. No, let's keep it going. I don't want to do it without Jim being there. If Jim's not there, it's not cool. He's playing he's playing the fighter, he's playing the cleric, or whatever. There may be reasons for that. I'm going to guess this person's reading into the feedback and maybe the body language and the language that my players, plural, canceled on me. He didn't write that. So one of the players canceled, so we decided not to play. So you said my players cancel me. It could be like a brother and sister, or a husband and wife and a friend that you work with. When there's only one guy left that will play and the husband and wife team don't play, that's the players canceling on you. You kind of want to find out what's up with that. But get the open feedback, solicit the feedback from your players. Is there something about when the game's actually playing that you don't like? Like, do you feel like it's too slow, or am I just winging it and making things up along the way? Are you not getting a chance to do what you wanted to do? Or we don't know whether we're playing a homebrew thing or a commercial adventure. So talk to the players, solicit their feedback, and they're like, hey, the GM cares about what we're doing. Let's try to make it, get to roll some dice and have fun. The nervousness thing is going to be a human thing. Fake it till you make it, whatever you want to do. Chill out. Don't get drunk or anything, but you can have a Guinness. But you don't have to do anything. Most GMs, right before a session starts, like, okay, cool. Now, we were here last time. Here's an example. Let's say I'm running the Glacial Rifts or Frost Giant Jar, which I've done here on the channel before, right? If you dig back way back to 2018. Okay, last weekend you guys had used the Infinity Chain. You'd all magically teleported from, the steading of the Hill Giant Chief to this strange cave. And now before you have blah, 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 blah. And I start describing the location. Turn them loose. What do you want to do? Get them into what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? Let them decide, right? They make a decision. Give them an interesting description of what they see before them so they can have the imagination in their mind, paint the visual picture of the caves, the color of the lights, the aurora borealis, the temperature, the cold. You wish you had jackets, you don't. Make it kind of interesting. Like, you're in a situation, they can imagine a scene from a film where the actors were freezing to death and it was super cold. They wish they had a jacket. You can make it where it's hard to move. You start, your boots are covered with water. You get hypothermia if you're not careful. You could get the ball rolling so the players are responding to problems, right? Get that moving. And remember, it's the players doing stuff, not you controlling anything. All right, let's go to the very last question just for tonight. This is a long one. Okay. How should I run a multi-session murder mystery? This time I'm just going to read the whole thing first. So hopefully you can think in your own mind how you would answer it. And then I'll come back and give you my ideas. I'm preparing for an 8-session, approximately, campaign in a small city where a serial killer begins to kill people. It will be fairly low level, low fantasy, D&D 5e, if that is relevant. I plan on having the party doing things around town for the first session or two, while the first murder or two happens in the background, but most people write them off as strange things that guards can take care of. Excuse me. Okay. The current plan, unless something happens unexpectedly in the game, is it becomes impossible to ignore as people start having witch hunts and pointing fingers at each other, cueing the party to start officially investigating. The party may not. Oh, shit, I said I wouldn't do that. Okay. I'm going to give them all a list of NPCs that might become relevant, approximately 30. We'll come back to that. Many of these people will be unimportant, some will be victims, some may become red herrings, and one will be the killer. Oh, that's interesting. Obviously, as the murders happen and people all have alibis or logical reasons they couldn't commit the crime, their players will shorten the list of suspects. They might interact with the others as useful NPCs with names. They can add notes to the list and suspects as they please. So it sounds like you're handing them a list. I have no definitive ending plan, as I have no idea if the party will figure out who did it, and do not want to railroad them into discovering who did it if they chase a red herring and ignore evidence of his or her innocence. I do have a potential plan to lengthen the campaign a bit if they discover the person early, giving them an extra session or two to catch the culprit. Interesting point there. I'm not sure if I should even consider the villain getting away, as that might be narratively unsatisfying for the players in the ending, which is hugely respectful that the person thinks about it from that perspective. Also, I looked at a spell list for D&D and realized that Speak with Dead and the Zone of Truth are spells that could trivialize info gathering, but what people believe to be the case isn't always true. Good point. I will have to preface many investigations with the fact that not all info is completely correct. You don't need to do that. It might need to be verified. As for reviving the dead, that's a crazy expensive for a random person. I have not planned every shred of evidence nor every victim, and I want to make it feel more personalized to players and their actions after I see where they're playing the whodunit in game. Any advice on multi-session murder mystery plot? Second time that's been mentioned. Thank you in advance. Okay, listen, I hate to say the word unpack this. Let's break this down. Remember, sorry, I got a little bit of a cold. 8-session campaign. Okay, only 8, not 7, not 6, not 5, not 20, not 4 years, 3 decades, not 1 weekend. It's been decided. So, why is that happening? What you want to do is run a murder mystery and have it unfold before your eyes with the player's actions and the information they see. You don't want to turn it into a Netflix drama. So the first thing I would suggest you is just remove the criteria of 8-session campaign. They might go in there on the first day and solve the whole damn thing. It might be exciting. And now the crew of major detectives move on to the next problem, right? Be sure to think ahead about that. Low fantasy D&D 5e is great. So like a medieval village or a village you might see in Elder Scrolls Online. Not a lot of whoop-de-doo magic going on, not Baldur's Gate or anything like that, or, oh gosh, Luskan. Some of the cities in the Forgotten Realms are Greyhawk. This part here, I plan on having the party doing things around town for the first session or two while the first murder 2 happen in the background. That's a good idea, but make sure those things that the party are doing around town aren't freelance robbery, raping and pillaging and stealing. Give them a mission, a reason for them to be in the town. It's not The Name of the Rose, which is a fantastic film and a great book by Umberto Eco, if I remember correctly. You don't necessarily need to be, Sean Connery showing up to solve the mysterious murders at the monastery, but there could be some other reason why the party is in the town. That's really important. It's not discussed here, but the first session or 2, while the murders take place in the background, means they may lose sense of what the hell's going on and why this is important, because we're doing this mundane, stupid stuff in the town. It doesn't really feel like a big drama's unfolding. I mean, if you were watching this as a film, right when you pull into town, a murder, someone comes screaming out of a church and says someone's been murdered, and they're like, wow, this is the call to action, this is the inciting incident, right? You don't need to be unpacking flower boxes for the first 4-hour session or 2 for 8 hours of gameplay and have nothing cool happen but you wander around doing useless World of Warcraft quests. So I worry about that part. But most people write them off as strange things the guards will take care of. I wouldn't do that. So from a pacing perspective, let's scratch sessions 2 and 3, 1 and 2 off the list here, and let's make sure that an inciting incident happens within the first page of the adventure, right? Give them a reason to be there, have them go there, have them arrive, maybe they need to talk to like the town barrister or something about some kind of an issue, and then kick things off, like interrupt things of what's happening, right? The current plan, unless something unexpectedly happens in the game, is to become impossible to ignore as people start having witch hunts and pointing fingers at each other, cueing the party to officially start investigating. That will be tricky because you're going to try to convey that the town is up in arms with these murders happening. So you want to establish multiple murders, and then the town starting to have unrest because, like in the movie Pale Rider, right, with the mining company, the town starts to become pissed off, and they want to do a witch hunt, and they're blaming the guy that runs the shop, and like in the original Sleepy Hollow film. That might be too slow of a burn for a D&D session. I would think of a situation where, you know, the first murder happens and you can see right away that 4 NPCs have strong opinions about what's happening, and they have an extended family and they run businesses in the town, but keep it smaller than the village of Lawmen if you can. Now, I am going to give them a list of NPCs that might become relevant, approximately 30. That's a little ambitious. I don't think I would try to do that. A 30-person list of NPCs to go talk to, and you're going to have conversations with the lead player while the other players watch that person ask them questions. It's going to be detective game real quick. Now, if you really want it to be that, there are a number of detective-oriented games. Some of them are card games and choose-your-adventure stuff where you do have to solve a murder mystery. Go play one of those. Like, play one of those and get a sense for how those game designers create those things and how they unfold to be interesting. Handing the players a list of NPCs that might be relevant, I don't know if I would really do that unless the players decide to collaborate. So you could have like the town marshal, let's just call him that and consider it Wild West setting, ask for the party's help because they have magical abilities or they're well known, etc. And then, you know, you want them, the players, to go around investigating and talking to whoever they want to. One thing that'll be tricky about a murder mystery is, why does anyone care? Like, do the players really care that some dude or woman was murdered in the town? I mean, really, they usually are thinking about, like, what can I do with my cool character to get more gear, more loot, progress my character story arc, go on an adventure, challenge myself against difficult, crazy enemies, rise to the challenge because I'm a smart player and I understand the game mechanics to win and reward us and conquer and go to the next section. That's what most players want to do. They may not be interested in giving a damn about who got, you know, Sally Johnson got murdered, who works at the bank on the weekend. I mean, that may not be interesting to them. So you could have a situation where perhaps someone tries to steal stuff from the players at night, which is connected to the murders, because the people know that you've been asked to solve it. So someone tries to steal your little notebook that one of the players, who's the real detective player, has written all the notes down to make sure that they know about it ahead of time. But it's going to be hard to get the players motivated to do this if you blatantly tell them up front that, hey, we're going to run like this really cool murder mystery thing in D&D. It'd be kind of fun. You'd be a small little hamlet village, really low magic. There's going to be murders, and this serial killer will be on the loose, and it's probably someone you might have met before. Like, make it interesting like that. All right. So the main thrust of this style of adventure, which will be tricky, is all the interviewing potential, you know, suspects, I guess we could say, and see what happens. We got the guy, and you can tweet it, right? So the spell list in D&D, don't worry about that. Just be familiar with the spells that players might use, and make sure that when players, you know what players are playing, you know what classes they're playing. Just be aware that they might be looking at their spell list like, let me see what I can do here to find out the answer right away. I don't think that's a problem, unless it's like level 1. You haven't planned every shred of evidence. At least plan about 4. I would suggest it doesn't have to be the O.J. Simpson glove and shoe and that kind of crap, but you want to plan some physical evidence, right? And it's also very cool to have like people left town suddenly, like they're fleeing the area. So this is a very tricky one. How should I run it? All right. You don't need 30 NPCs. Don't hand them a list. Have the call to action or the inciting incident happen in the first 15 to 20 minutes of your first session. Make sure that someone that runs the town, that, you know, a lowly, poor little farming town like the village of Lament needs your help, and you guys are badasses, so you feel heroic. Allow the players to investigate the physical evidence, investigate the crime scene. Allow the players to use any kind of magical means they think is necessary. Have outside forces screw with the players at nighttime, camping, staying in the inn, approaching them at the inn and telling them what they think. Have that kind of stuff happen to prompt them, because they may not be able to figure anything out. Don't turn into knocking on front doors and asking questions or role-playing interviews. I would try to stay away from that if you can. Plan 2 really interesting additional murders that happen, kind of like in the movie Outland. If you haven't seen the film Outland with Sean Connery, it's like a science fiction thing. Like, watch a film that has 2 or 3 murders in it. Like, you watch Seven, right? It's a little wacky, Seven. But Outland's good because they're on like a mining colony. There's not a lot of people living there. So, research some books that have murder mysteries in it. If it says anything on the back of the book, on the blurb, it says a small sleepy town in Arizona becomes, plagued with a serial killer attacking and killing people with a population of 100. Look for those kind of sessions, because what you want to glean from that is, what are the hooks? What are the interesting things that unfold? Go watch The Name of the Rose again, right? That will make the session fun for your players, and be sure they get a chance to fight something. Be sure they get to a combat scenario. It could be against a bunch of scrubs trying to cover things up, like 3 of the sons and 2 of their Ludnut friends realize you're getting too close to the real reason for it. I mean, in my Scarecrow's Lament, which is a free Halloween adventure I have on my website right now, it's been around for like 3 years now, for Pathfinder and for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons through Osric. It's a murder mystery as well, but from a long time ago, but it comes to fruition today. So, research that stuff and go for it. I think it's cool, but simplify. Don't do too much. You're not a film director, and you just don't know how those players are going to react because you're not telling a linear story. All right, we're going to leave it at that. Hope you guys had fun and liked these. Leave a comment and let me know if you'd like to do something different with these. I think it's fun to try to come up with ways to share knowledge about how to run game sessions in any game session. We'll talk to you again soon, and if you haven't yet, of course, like and subscribe to the video. It really helps the channel out. Talk to you later.